Peter Krause is a terrorism analyst. He is joining us this morning. And Peter, do you suspect that there are some ties? We hear that the older brother spent some time in Russia. And that's the big question right now, is what did he do while he was there?
Yeah, well, first off, I mean, obviously his father lives in Russia, so it's very possible he went over there just for family ties, for family means.
And by the way, that is what his father says. He says while he was there, he was laying low at home.
Yeah, the other possibility is, look, this guy had a YouTube channel that had apparently a video from a group called Caucasus Emirate, which is a group that is a jihadi organization, has some ties to Al-Qaeda. That being said, you know, you have free speech in this country. You can upload those things without being necessarily tied to the organization. The FBI looked at him, didn't necessarily think that there was a major threat there. Even if he did, when he went over and met with the group, it's very possible they looked at him and said, you know, this guy's a zealot, this isn't the type of guy we want to have. They didn't actually demonstrate that much operational security when they hijacked or took control of that car. The cell phone was in there, which allowed the police to track them down. So it's not necessarily clear that even if he met with one of these groups, he was a highly trained operative.
You mentioned, of course, that the FBI did check him out. They looked into him back in 2011 at the request of the Russians.
Right.
Why might the Russians ask the FBI to look into this guy? And clearly the question so many people are asking right now is, did the FBI miss something?
Yeah, well, I'd say, look, first, after 9/11 in particular, there's been increased intelligence sharings internationally, and so it's definitely possible that the Russians in the United States looked at this and said, okay, this is a guy that we want to keep an eye on. Can you look into him? He's now not a U.S. citizen, but he's living in the United States. That being said, I'm not sure if the FBI necessarily missed anything. As I say, I haven't seen access to the intel that they have, but, you know, again, just having a couple of YouTube videos and pretending or saying that you're more religiously devout isn't a crime and isn't necessarily something that needs to be flagged. As we talked about before, and some of the FBI directors have said, there are thousands of individuals who may, you know, share these beliefs, and very few who try to carry an attack, and even fewer who are actually able to successfully carry one out. So to say the FBI missed something here, I don't think we have nearly the information to say that yet.
You know, you've been watching the reports along with all of us, and Jahar, the 19-year-old who's sitting in the hospital right now, intubated, without being able to talk and answer all of these questions. Yeah. A lot of people are saying that he was guided by his brother, that he, in fact, you know, perhaps doesn't bear as much fault in all of this. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'd say first and foremost we have to hear from him to get an idea of that, but I will say there are some signs here. The older brother does seem to be the one who's more ideologically committed. A lot of the personal accounts from the family and from friends of the two brothers kind of say that the older brother was a little more domineering, that he was kind of the one who maybe the younger brother either looked up to or perhaps was controlled by to some degree. So I think that's possible, and we have seen dynamics like that before. With the DC sniper case, you kind of had the older-younger dynamic with the mentor. So it's definitely possible, but again, I think we're all hoping that he comes to, not so much because we care deeply about his health necessarily, but more in the sense that we want to find some answers about why this happened.
And if the older brother was in fact radicalized, there are questions about when. Was it during that 6-month trip to Russia, you know, 2012, or could it have happened before? There are some people who said he was showing signs as far back as 2009, or could it have happened recently? Explain to me, radicalization, can it happen here in the United States?
It absolutely can, and to be clear, it's, you know, in this case it does seem like maybe religion played a role, but it doesn't have to by any means. In fact, one of the common things across political ideologies, across religions in this type of violence is kind of being socially disconnected from your community or from a group, feeling like you have to reach out to someone else who's going to be more accepting of you. Again, this brother said, the older brother said, I don't have any American friends, I don't feel like they understand me, I don't understand them. So that's actually one of the most common calling cards here. It absolutely can happen in America, and it's actually one of the major reasons that going forward, one of the most important things I think as a community is that we recognize these individuals, we put them to trial, or the younger one to trial, and, you know, hold them responsible for their crimes if they're in fact guilty, but also making sure that we don't accuse people based just on race or religion or ethnicity, because the public was the most important you know, aspect here in terms of capturing these people. The FBI did a great job, but it was the public who tipped off where these people were, and that's because they trust the government, they feel like they have bonds to this community. That's something we need to make sure we do going forward. Falsely accusing people, etc., is only going to make sure that this tragedy becomes a much worse tragedy for the society.
And we just don't know yet.
No, we don't, and we don't. And at the end of the day, as I say, you can be someone who is religious or, you know, envies some group, and at the end of the day, you could still be committing this for personal reasons. Maybe they told you, we don't really think you're worthwhile, and so you did this to show them that you're a warrior, that you have got something to say. So again, we're not sure about the motivations at this point, but hopefully we'll find out in the coming weeks.
No, we certainly aren't. You know, big question, why Boston? Why the marathon? We know that the 19-year-old went back to his university. Just really bizarre behavior. Why the marathon?
Well, there's a couple things here. I mean, one is just, again, 90–95% of terrorist attacks are committed locally, but close to where individuals live or grew up. So it's very possible that they saw the marathon as kind of a target of convenience close to where they were. Also note, to the extent that there is a connection to a Caucasus emirate, and again, we have no idea at that point if that's the case, but this is a group who has threatened and said they're going to attack the Sochi Olympics in 2014. A couple of years ago, they did carry out an attack in a ski resort close by as kind of perhaps a dry run. So again, if there is a connection there could be something about kind of public sporting events. It obviously makes sense in terms of getting some notoriety, although again, as I said, it's kind of a terrible attack in the sense that we're able to get video of these individuals quite quickly. Marathons, again, are the type of event that is going to happen next year, and this is a great opportunity for the Boston community to show it's resilient, it's going to come together. Hopefully there's more spectators and runners than ever before, and so in that sense, I think it was quite a poor target to select.
Peter Krause, terrorism analyst, thank you so much for being with us this morning. I really appreciate it.